Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us as we continue week 2 at the EPIC conference. My name is Adina Panchea. I'm a professor at Faculty of Engineering, Université de Sherbrooke, and I will be chairing this 7th session of the EPIC conference, Staying Connected. So before we begin today's sessions, I would like to note that the EPIC conference sessions are taking place on Zoom from 12 to 1 p.m. ET, with the final session and EPIC conference closing taking place tomorrow. So check out the AgeTech EPIC conference webpage to download the EPIC conference program, which includes detail on each challenge area sessions, or to watch a recording from a previous session as well. I'll begin today with my short presentation on the Staying Connected Challenge area. Then we will enjoy 2 research presentations. We will have a 5 minutes Q&A following each presenter, followed by moving the dial presentation featuring a supported startup. And finally, we will close the session with a general Q&A. I am excited to introduce today's EPIC conference presenters. We have with us for the first presentation, Kudar and Lyne Ouellet. Will present high-touch, low-barrier AgeTech, a collaborative approach to support socially isolated Canadians aged 55 plus through the Connect program. The second presentation by Brittany Poussette and Kirsten Woodend will present peer support for people with limb loss, reflections on hosting a community-based priority setting workshop. Finally, Vanessa Lowe will talk about VanTech Med in the Moving the Dial presentation. All attendees are encouraged to use the Q&A box to ask questions. So you can leave a comment on a question, and also you can upvote questions that others have submitted. We also invite you to use the chat if needed. The session is being recorded and will be available for playback. Links to playback will be posted on the EPIC conference webpage and the AgeWell YouTube channel. Should you choose, you can enable closed captioning for Zoom on the Zoom toolbar. Without further ado, let's begin with my short introduction to the AgeWell area of staying connected. So let me share my screen. Okay, so now you are seeing my screen. I think that everything it's okay. I would like to start with what staying connected means to me, both as a person and as a researcher, because one day I will be an older adult myself, and I will need the fruits of the solutions we are building today to satisfy my own needs, of course. So as you can see in the video, if it starts, what's happening? So I have a problem with the video. Oh, I wasn't expecting that. I think that the links for the video can be shared, Alison, if I may. This video shows 2 scenarios when you have the opportunity to see it. I'm very sorry, I do not know why it's not starting. It worked when we planned it, but the video is showing 2 scenarios. The first one, it involves someone sharing a meal prepared by a receipt of their grandmother, which unfortunately it is not among us, and it can show the connection by presence and accessibility of sharing a connection through her food once again. A second scenario in the video, when you'll see it, isn't about the young couple you see in the video having a good meal. It's more about having a personal chef at home capable of perfectly recreating any dish on Earth exactly the way we loved it. So using the technology to be there with us to help us stay connected. Also, if you carry on, staying connected carries a unique meaning for everyone. Some look for human connections and presence, as this picture may show, to help us during our daily tasks. For others, staying connected may look different, may look as regaining their physical mobility. If you look at the young cartoon character wearing a robotic device, that technology gives him the ability to walk, to help others, and to feel useful, even though he needs help himself. So, but in our current reality, in the world we are living today, where we have staff shortages, and other community challenges, we can only maybe we can have the accessibility of staying connected through robotic solution, provided they are designed to be safe and reliable. So we can have humanoids, as in this picture, to help us through the day, but not to the entire day, only to specific tasks. So today there are so many solutions available to us. Technology that makes us feel safe, that autonomous vehicle that can drive us where we need to go, or robot to mow the lawn when the kids have moved out and the grandkids are far away, for example. There are also solutions more related as more known as socially assistive robots, like the one we created at the Université de Sherbrooke, the one in the pictures I show, designed with and for older adults to interact and hold conversation, as I will discuss later on. However, there are situations that must never occur, and we need to actively avoid them. For instance, in the fall of 2022, a Roomba vacuum leaked private pictures. When I read this for the first time, I immediately looked at my own vacuum cleaner, and it wasn't a Roomba, by the way. And though I was like, oh my God, do you have a camera hidden somewhere in there? After I checked, I didn't found one. But the scary part for me was realizing I had bought something without knowing its full capabilities. This is exactly why, even though I'm a strong advocate of the positive sides of AI and robotics, we as a society, from my point of view, must build these solutions by involving the very people who will use them. So we must include older adults, healthcare professionals, policymakers, and if you think about it, this is the core of the age-old culture, and I'm so proud and I'm so happy to be part of this culture. To present the solution we built as SRR, socially assistive robots, we collaborated directly with residents in care facilities. We involved in our first study 11 older adults. We had 10 women and a man, all over the age of 65, and designed a tabletop robot to interact with them, to tell the weather, and even to dance for them. The reaction was fantastic. As you can see in this slide, the lady on the left started dancing with the robot, and the one on the right expressed pure joy, and it was amazing for us to see this. And because staying connected also means understanding how someone feels, and we need to react to that feeling. I dove into giving the robot the ability to analyze facial expressions. This was quite a challenge because most AI algorithms are built using data from young people. But as we age, our life experience is literally written in the lines on our faces. So we need to do much more work to build AI algorithm trained specifically on older adults' data. During the interactions we had, in the care facilities, during the many experiences we have with the older adults, people told us that, as you can read in the slide, people told us that it was fun, it was useful. It also raised privacy concerns. Like, it was very funny to hear that as long as he does not repeat it to my sister-in-law, everything it is okay. But they also gave us valuable ideas to improve it further. So we took these ideas. This must be a video as well. It's working. Very strange. We took all this feedback and we proposed an upgraded solution, a robot which is capable to display motion, to track the person speaking, to dance, to play music, and interact safely as an AI agent built with and for older adults. Think of it as a homemade local ChatGPT, one that doesn't send your data online, but learns safely directly from its interactions with you. So I will share this link as well for you to see, and I will invite you to watch the entire video and to find out more about the solution. Once again, thank you for being here today. And thank you for being here today. And I will turn over to the first presentation with Kira Kudar and Lyne Ouellet. I will introduce Dr. Kira Kudar. She is a research coordinator at the Health Information Exchange Laboratory, Department of Psychology, University of Manitoba, and the clinical associate at the Cognitive Behavior Therapy Institute of Manitoba. She is the lead coordinator for the CONNECT program. Principal investigator is Dr. Christine Reynolds. The CONNECT program is a free group program for adults 55 plus who want to feel more connected, learn helpful tools for managing emotion, and build community. Kira's experience focuses on trauma-informed, evidence-based interventions for aging populations where affected individuals, immigrants, and refugees. Lyne Ouellet is an interdisciplinary PhD candidate at the University of New Brunswick, focusing on social isolation, loneliness, and connection in the context of community. She works with many great community organizations in the city of Fredericton, who advocate for older adults in many ways. She also works closely with faculty at St. Thomas University in the Department of Gerontology. These individuals were supported in ensuring the CONNECT program was able to be carried out to support older adults around the province. Lyne was able to facilitate the sessions along with stellar students from St. Thomas University. Much was learned and many opportunities were created for all involved. So I will pass the mic to Lyne and to Kira. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for introduction. Can you see our presentation?
Yes.
Sounds great. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Kira Kudar. I'm with the University of Manitoba, and I'm joined today by my colleague Lyne Ouellet from St. Thomas University and the University of New Brunswick. Together, we'll be sharing our work on the CONNECT program, a collaborative low barrier approach to support socially isolated Canadians aged 55 and over. The CONNECT program is a national research initiative led by Dr. Christine Reynolds. Dr. Christine Reynolds is a clinical psychologist and the director of clinical training in the Department of Psychology at the University of Manitoba. The program is a collaboration. It is supported by Canadian Institutes of Health Research, and it brings together a network of academic and community partners across the country. One of the things that makes CONNECT distinctive is that it built on strong evidence. The first is acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, which is one of the most empirically supported cognitive behavioral therapies available today. The second is self-compassion, drawing on Kristen Neff's framework of kindness toward the self, particularly important for older adults navigating life transitions. And the third is psychosocial theories of successful aging, research-based ideas about how older adults adapt, find meaning, and continue to thrive as they age. The program is structured around Stephen Hayes' three-flex model of psychological flexibility with three simple but powerful aims: open up, be present, and do what matters. How does the program actually work? CONNECT is a 6-session group program for adults 55 and over who are experiencing loneliness, social isolation, and co-occurring symptoms of anxiety and depression. There are 3 key features I want to highlight. First, it is delivered by phone and virtually, which is intentional. It's designed to reach older adults who may face barriers to in-person care, including those living in rural and remote communities. Second, it uses a small group format with 6 to 8 participants meeting weekly over 6 sessions, which fosters connection and shared experience. And third, every participant receives a workbook with reflections and exercises, and our facilitators are fully trained in group facilitation. Here, a quick look at our session materials. Each of the 6 sessions has its own dedicated workbook, and you can see the covers here. We worked with a design studio to make these workbooks feel warm, accessible, and easy to engage with. The imagery draws on Canadian landscapes, which has resonated really well with participants. On the slide, you can see a brief overview of each of the 6 sessions. Participants skip this workbook, so the program lives beyond the 6 sessions, and participants can return to the exercises whenever they need to. Now I'd like to share some of what we're hearing from participants themselves. This data is part of a wonderful poster presented earlier this year at the CBT conference by our colleague Georgia Gopinath from the Connect program team. 6 adults aged 55 and over who completed the program took part in individual telephone interviews about their experience and the outcomes they perceived. We analyzed the interviews using reflexive thematic analysis, and 3 early themes have emerged. The first is making commitment both to the other group members and to the program itself. The second is developing connection in virtual settings, where participants highlighted the importance of tailored facilitation and accessible connection. And the third is taking a new perspective both on their struggles and their coping and next steps. You can see 2 participant quotes on the slide. One participant described becoming much kinder to themselves, and another spoke about returning to the Leaves on the Stream exercise to help her move forward in her life. And what is especially meaningful is that we can trace these shifts directly back to specific ACT interventions and strategies the participants used, like acceptance, self-compassion, and values-led action. It is early but very encouraging signal that the program is doing what we hoped it would. And now I'd like to hand things over to my colleague Lyne, who will share her experience as a facilitator on the ground in New Brunswick. Lyne, over to you.
Great, thank you. As you can see, I appreciate being the individual here to present our experience as we've had it here in New Brunswick. I really want to start by thanking the team at the University of Manitoba for their patience as we got organized to be a part of this program. Here in New Brunswick, we don't have an organization or office or anything that necessarily or oversees everything related to older adults. Under the advice of the team in Manitoba, as well as our understanding of the program, we knew that we needed resources in place should people share things that are perhaps challenging. And that took us a while to get organized and have everything to where we were comfortable moving forward, but we did. We didn't need to use them, but we were happy to have them. I also want to point out how easy all of this was. The University of Manitoba team has been amazing. Everything is well organized. I was very lucky to be supported by the university, or St. Thomas University. We had 3 amazing students co-facilitate with me, and we completed the training in the fall of 2025. The training was comprehensive, useful. The team certainly provided an atmosphere where we could ask anything as we go along, or if there were things after the sessions were completed. So everything was absolutely well organized from the get-go. For us, in terms of recruitment of participants, again, lacking that oversight, that central organization for older adults here in our province, it was a bit of a challenge. So we cast a wide net, and we got, again, some wonderful participants who they expressed different reasons for joining. A lot of them are on the Connect website, which we'll put the link in the chat. But some were there to learn about emotional health. Others felt they wanted a place to connect. All sorts of reasons why people joined. Which brings me to our sessions. We held our 2 separate 6-week sessions in the winter. We had one go from January to February, and then the other from March to April. Some had talked about that was a good time because getting out in the winter is a bit more challenging. Most of the sessions were about an hour and a half long, and we held all of our sessions on the phone versus virtual, which is an option with this program. And this brings me to the next slide to discuss how all of this went. We had two very different groups, but they were also engaged. They shared so many rich experiences. One of the challenges and one of the benefits may have been the phone. When we were done our sessions, we asked them, had we held it virtually versus phone, could you have participated? And results and comments were different for both modes of delivery. The phone did present some challenges. People, they had their speaker phones on, so there was some feedback at times, making it difficult to hear. And they also found that speaking up, it was a little difficult to know, is it my turn to speak or not? And so that visual may have assisted with that. And then in terms of benefits, there were so many. We had people share some really insightful, educational, personal experiences. They told us they learned a lot. They mentioned they loved the group aspect, that they felt not alone in their experiences. And a lot of them talked about how they really enjoyed the mindfulness exercises and continued to do them even in between sessions. So I'll pass it along to Kira to sum it up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lyne. Thank you all for your time today. The Connect program is a work in progress, and one we believe holds a real potential to make a difference in life of older adults experiencing loneliness and social isolation. And we'd love to keep building this together with participants, researchers, community organizations, and policymakers who share our commitment. And you can find our website and email on this slide. And thank you so much for your attention today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm looking to the Q&A box. The audience, if you have questions, do not hesitate to write them in the Q&A box. We'll be pleased to answer. I have one question meanwhile. So all these people which participated in this program, they'll be happy to kind of re-participate at the activity, or they will participate only once. It was something I didn't quite understood. So they want to come back and to live the same experience more than once.
Yeah, I can answer this question. Thank you so much for this question. Yeah, as this Connect group's part of clinical trial now at the University of Manitoba, now we run only one group for each group, but participants are welcome to take it one more time. And also I shared our website in the chat, so you can find more information about participation there as well.
Okay, thank you. So you mentioned that it was kind of a challenge for the older adults with the phone, because it was it was like a phone call, right? They were on the speaker and they need to hear the questions, I imagine, and all the conversation. But it was the possibility of being virtually, meaning they needed to use a PC or even their phone if they were able to do that. Do you think that you will benefit from kind of a give them the possibility to learn how to use the virtual aspect of the project? Do you think that it will be a good aspect to learn them how to connect via a PC or via the phone? Maybe the presence will increase. What do you think about that?
Yeah, Lyne, if you can.
I was going to say, I think we both
part.
can. Yeah, I think we probably have equal but shared experiences. I can say from the conversations I had with older adults, many were able and had participated in other groups virtually, and so they spoke about how that would have been useful. I can say that we had actually several participants who were completely blind. They had no vision, and for them, the phone was beneficial that way. We also had some individuals in which I think is anywhere in Canada, but in rural areas where the internet is unreliable, and should we had it virtual, they actually would not have been able to participate. We have actually, Kira and I talked about this very thing, and we've considered in the next round of perhaps offering it as a hybrid option for those that want to join virtually versus those that maybe the phone is the best mode. I think again it was a 50-50. We had different conversations with the participants themselves, and phone allowed some people to join who otherwise would not have been, and others virtual would have been better. So
yeah, totally agree. Just can add a few words here. Yes, that choice of participants based on how they remote, and also if they have digital literacy. So we try to be as much accessible as possible for all participants and include everyone.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your questions. We have questions from the audience, but we will leave these questions for the general Q&A as well, because we need to move further. But thank you for the question you posed. We'll have the opportunity to answer these questions. Thank you, Lyne, and thank you, Kira. Now we'll move to the second presentation with Brittany Poussette and Kirsten Woodend. Brittany Poussette, she's a PhD candidate in rehabilitation sciences at the University of British Columbia and the director of clinical research at Barber Prosthetics Clinic. She is a Canadian certified prosthetist and holds a master's in science in rehabilitation from McMaster University. Brittany has enjoyed being a fellow in the EPIC-AT program this past year. Her research focuses on the experiences of individuals with limb loss, most of whom are older adults, and how rehabilitation services and prosthetic treatment can promote participation and well-being. Kirsten Woodend is an emeritus professor of nursing with over 46 years of experience in healthcare education. Thank you for that, Kirsten. Following a motorcycle accident in 2017 that resulted in a left above knee amputation, Kirsten has become a passionate advocate for peer support and inclusive care for Canadians with limb loss. As president of the Amputee Coalition of Canada and a certified peer visitor, Kirsten leads the National Peer Visitor Training Program, helping to build strong empathic support networks across the country. Her work bridges clinical expertise and lived experience, empowering both healthcare professionals and individuals with limb loss. So I will pass the floor for you too. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, Adina. Brittany and I'll be presenting, or we'll be talking about peer support for persons with limb loss and reflecting on hosting a community-based priority setting workshop. Would you like me to tell you what to flip slides, Brittany? Thank you. Adina has already introduced us, but this work represents a partnership between Brittany, who's affiliated with UBC and the Smart Centre for Aging, and the Amputee Coalition of Canada, with which I am affiliated. And I'm ready for the next. Thank you. Limb amputation is not a rare event in Canada. Approximately 7,500 individuals undergo an amputation each year. What's particularly important for this audience is that the vast majority of amputees, about 86%, are older adults. And amputation is not just a physical loss, it's a profound life transition. Individuals must adapt not only physically, but also psychologically and socially. And these dimensions are deeply interconnected. Our rehabilitation systems are in many ways very effective. They're well equipped to support physical recovery, mobility, prosthetic use, and functional independence. However, they're far less consistent in addressing the psychosocial aspects of adaptation. And that gap matters. We know that approximately 1/3 of people with dysvascular lower limb amputation experience significant social disconnection and isolation. So when we talk about aging well in the context of amputation, we must look beyond the physical outcomes. The real challenge and the opportunity is to support people in maintaining connection, identity, and meaningful participation in their lives and in their communities. I'm ready. There is strong and growing evidence that peer support can meaningfully facilitate adaptation after amputation. Speaking with someone who's lived through a similar experience offers something that formal healthcare systems often cannot: credibility, shared understanding, and hope. However, in the Canadian context, these opportunities have historically been fragmented and inconsistent. Access can depend on things like geography, local resources, or informal networks, which means that many individuals simply do not receive the kind of support at all. As a national support provider, the Amputee Coalition of Canada has developed structured programs that connect individuals with trained peer visitors, particularly following recent amputations. Recognizing both the potential and the gaps, the ACC was invited to partner in this work. And together, we have worked to co-develop a new peer support program designed specifically for Canadians living with limb loss. And what's important in this work is not simply creating a program, but ensuring that this program is grounded in evidence, responsive to the realities of older adults, and scalable across diverse settings. And I'm ready. Thank you. So, for this project, the overarching objective was to move beyond assumptions and really understand what matters to most of the community in terms of priorities, gaps, and meaningful solutions to peer support. And in order to do that, the work was structured in 3 deliberate phases. In phase 1, the team began by grounding themselves in the existing evidence. Under Brittany's guidance, a review of the literature on peer support programs not only for people with limb loss, but also across other musculoskeletal conditions was conducted. This identified what was already known about effective models, as well as where important gaps persist. In phase 2, there was a shift from the literature to lived experience. 30 community members, including individuals with limb loss and those involved in support networks, were interviewed. This phase was critical in helping to identify what resources currently exist in practice, and equally importantly, their strengths and their limitations from the perspective of those who actually use them. And then in phase 3, those insights were brought back to the community through a series of workshops. At those workshops, we worked to prioritize the most pressing gaps and to collaboratively shape ideas for future peer support resources. This, as you can see, is not a linear process, but a cycle of understanding, listening, and co-creating, aimed at ensuring that what is developed is truly aligned with the needs of those that it's intended to support. And now I'd like to turn the presentation over to my colleague, Brittany.
Thank you. So, as Kirsten said, we hosted 2 community workshops. One was in Vancouver and one was in Toronto in the fall of 2025. We had 25 participants in total. 18 of those had experienced limb loss, and the mean age was 61 years old with a range from 49 to 80. So we had quite a range of older adults. And in our workshops, we had some presentations, and you can see here, Kirsten gave one of those presentations. We brainstormed some of the gaps, solutions to those gaps. We shared ideas, and then we prioritized which gaps and solutions were most important to the community. So what did we find at the workshop? Well, for starters, we saw peer support in action. Just the act of bringing together the community, I think, was so powerful. Seeing everyone together, some of whom hadn't been in a room with others with limb loss before, it was really a special experience to be a part of. And when we talk about the gaps, we saw several gaps that were highlighted regarding the format of resources, their sustainability, the resources to support the programs, the accuracy of the resources, the consistency, and the reliability. So while there are some great programs that exist, there's also lots of room to develop new programs. When we look at what kind of programs we see, we found that digital technology was identified as a tool to help people identify which peers they wanted to connect with. And so some of the solutions were apps or websites that could help you find similar people with similar interests, perhaps who lived near to you, and then you could meet up in person or over a shared activity. There were also ideas for seminars, leadership development pathways to help train the next generation of peer support leaders. Rehab integration was a big thing that we talked about as well. It's not enough to just have programs, they need to be integrated into the rehab pathway so that everyone who has limb loss and is going through rehab is available or they're available to them. And finally, one of the ideas was a helpline, somewhere that you could call if you needed someone to connect with in that moment instead of waiting to be connected in the future. And in all of these solutions, we need to consider leadership, collaboration, sustainability, and communication. And so as we reflected on our workshop, we also saw these same themes came up. Leadership. We need to engage the leaders who are already working in this space. The Amputee Coalition of Canada is one of those. Also, the peer support program leaders from both their programs and others in the community. Healthcare providers, perhaps, who can help advocate in the hospitals. And also with the workshop, we need a leader to bring everyone together and facilitate that conversation. Without leadership, it just doesn't happen. Ooh. The next thing we mentioned is collaboration. The collaborative nature of the workshops was one of its strengths. Everyone was truly working together. There were new relationships that have been formed that have actually led to new collaborations in the 6 months since that workshop, which I think have been really powerful across the country. It also highlighted the need to have rehab professionals and people with limb loss together, as awareness and integration into rehab programs was one of the key challenges that was identified. Another factor was the financial sustainability. This is one thing that can lead to fragmentation in peer support, both in the resources available, but also in hosting workshops like this. They can be really expensive. And so, as many people with limb loss are low income or live in rural areas, they may need assistance to attend workshops like this or peer support opportunities. And so it came up again and again that without a source of financial sustainability, it's really hard to do programs in peer support without burnout. And finally, we found that people work together better when they are on the same page. And in hosting a workshop and planning peer support programs, we saw the importance of over-communicating, just making sure that everyone is on the same page. Even if it may seem obvious to you, making sure that you take that time to share what you're really thinking. And so with that, we'll conclude that peer support is critical and there is a need to develop new resources to fill the current gaps that exist. And through engaging the community, we can build strong collaborations and enable connections through peer support across the country. And we'd just like to end by saying thank you to those who funded this program and ask if there's any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and please feel free to enter your questions for Kristen and Brittany in the Q&A box and upvote questions you like asked. So meanwhile, this is quite of a challenge because you have people with the needs being all together and finding the gaps. It's kind of, it's honey for us researchers, right? Because we will need all these discussions in order to improve or to propose something which can really be in a benefit for them. So what is the next step? Do you have some kind of, it's more reports, publication, or what is the next step?
Yeah, so yes, we will share all of our findings with the community so that others can build on top of it as well. But our next step is actually co-creating one of the resources that was prioritized at one of the workshops. So we currently have a group of about 9 of us or 10 of us from a variety of backgrounds, people who have experienced limb loss, rehab professionals, researchers working together to actually bring one of these ideas to fruition. So hopefully early next year, we will actually see one of them implemented in Canada.
Wow, this will be great. So there is a quick question on the Q&A. How do you define older adults? 86%. I'm not sure.
I think there is the paper that talks about that. I'm really having to go rely on my memory here. I believe it classifies them as 50 and older in that particular paper. But it seems that a lot of papers put age ranges in different buckets. And so it's a little bit difficult depending on which work you're reading, that exact kind of threshold. But I believe, if I remember correctly, that specific paper was 50 plus.
Thank you very much. So we will need to go further, but we will have the Q&A, the general Q&A. So feel free to write the questions for all the presenters. Now we will move to our next. We'll turn over to the dial presenter, Vanessa Lowe of VanTech Med. So Vanessa Lowe is the co-founder and the CEO of VanTech Med, a Canadian health tech company transforming how we support emotional and behavioral health in aging populations. As a geriatric registered nurse, she witnesses the reality of loneliness, agitation, and caregiver burnout in the care settings where solutions were often reactive and resource limited. She went on to build Sunday Doll, an AI-embedded therapeutic companion system that delivers personalized non-pharmacological support while generating real-time insights for care teams. Vanessa now works at the intersection of healthcare, technology, and research to bring scalable human-centered solutions into long-term care and beyond. Up to you, Vanessa.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Oh. I'm not sure if you guys can see
yes
my screen or not. Okay. Do you guys see the full screen or my my little notes?
Yes, it looks great.
Okay, perfect. Well, okay, yeah. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you guys. Yeah, my name is Vanessa. I'm the co-founder and CEO of VanTech Med. Really appreciate the opportunity to share Sunny Doll, our intelligent companion doll system with you guys today, and to really open up conversations around where this work can go next. And so in terms of our North Star and our vision, it's really to transform everyday interactions into meaningful data insights to really help empower proactive, transparent, and compassionate care across the aging continuum. And how we are going about this is through tackling one of the most common and multifaceted challenges of unmet psychosocial needs in aging, inclusive of social isolation as well as loneliness. And so just looking at loneliness on its own, I'm sure you guys are aware about this, but over 40% of older adults experience this, and it costs 50% risk of developing dementia, 59% increased risk of functional and physical decline, and over 45% increased risk of death and mortality. And in the US alone, an extra $7 billion in annual Medicare spending is attributed to trying to solve this issue. In care homes, the pressures are also building. And as a geriatric nurse myself, I saw this across various facilities firsthand. For us, like staff often want to provide meaningful engagement, but they're limited by time, staffing pressures, and competing clinical demands. And non-pharmacological interventions, although they are preferred and the golden standard, they are really hard to deliver consistently across scale. And on top of that, families as well as the rest of the care teams, they don't have visibility into kind of the subtle emotional or gradual emotional changes until the stress escalates and festers to a point where it actually is clinically clinical depression or diagnosed anxiety. And by that time, they do have to go on medication. And so this is where we see the opportunity for Sunday Doll. And so the goal is really not to replace human care, but to create a scalable emotional support system that helps care teams gain earlier insight into changes in well-being, and also to provide a more adaptive interaction that can be tailored to the residents' needs, preferences, and cognitive stages. And so for the work we do at Sunday Doll, it really boils down to one key question, and it's that how do we support emotional and social needs in a way that is practical for the care environment? And that guiding question led us to develop our Sunday Doll system, which is a two-part integrated solution comprising of an intelligent companion doll for older adults and a provider-facing application, browser or app for care teams. And so Sunday Doll, the companion doll version of it, of the component of it, it feels and looks and it's designed to be a realistic or plushed doll, and that's weighted and powered by AI. And so it learns to listen and engage, and it can create stories, poems, have ongoing empathetic conversations. We have soothing music, guided meditation exercises, cognitive verbal games, and jokes as well. And so it's designed to, as I mentioned, to be soft, to be tactile, and also washable and adhering to infection control practices, and also designed for a range of cognitive stages, including high-functioning seniors to those with dementia. And so in terms of the Sunday application, right now it is just for healthcare providers. We do plan to roll it out for families when we do kind of roll out in aging in place communities and areas. But basically what the Sunday app does is core components. Number one is that it has real-time emotional health analytics to display mood trends and mood data from Sunday Doll users per profile. Our system also has an alert detection notification system. And so currently our algorithm can detect signs of pain, anxiety, depression, as well as suicidal ideation, collect the necessary data, and flag it as an alert for care providers to kind of review on our platform. And it's also supported, lastly, by many highly customizable features, including tailoring the voice, the volume, speed, language, and options to input memories, input triggers, and other relevant information about older adults to tailor the conversations and interactions further. And in terms of privacy and compliance, we are HIPAA and PETA compliant. Our system is deliberately designed to not have any cameras. We don't record. There's also, we as a company don't have access to conversations. We just have the thematic data. We also deliberately, for long-term care and organization purposes, did not open for memory storage. And our operating system is hosted securely on cloud with local service. And overall, this is kind of a snapshot of our system and how everything works together. But yeah, we're really just focused on not replacing human care, but really supporting the moments where human care is stretched at home, in facilities, delayed or unavailable, and creating another layer of emotionally responsive engagement to support our older adults. I'm just going to touch on a few use cases currently that we are exploring. So long-term care is kind of our main use case currently that we're exploring. We are also planning to scale into aging in place, so older adults living at home, inpatient mental health units and geriatric units in hospitals, as well as hospice and palliative care. So our device and the core features and offerings, they stay the same, but we are, the goal is to evaluate what different KPIs and impacts it makes in different settings. And so that's why we're running these various studies. And so I'm just going to touch on facilities and aging in place first, on what kind of metrics and what kind of primary outcomes that we're looking for. And so in long-term care, primary outcomes we're looking for include loneliness and social isolation score improvements, depression score decline, social engagement score incline, and behavior de-escalation effectiveness, and also the time it takes to de-escalate if successful. In home care, primary outcomes, again, will be loneliness and social isolation improvement, family perception and usability of our system, user acceptability on the Sunnydale companion aspect, and also overall like adoption timelines, like how long does it take for an older adult in the home and their family to adjust to our product? Is it easy to set up? Is it easy to use? Is it easy to charge? And at what point do we gain like successful adoption, or do we gain like get drop off, and what the reasons are for that? And so we're looking into that as well. In terms of inpatient and end-of-life settings, inpatient care, primary outcomes, we are looking again at loneliness and social isolation scores. A major one we are also looking for is agitation and behavior de-escalation success, especially in mental health units. Depression and anxiety score reduction again. And then another main one would be PRN medication use reduction. So in the inpatient setting would be antipsychotic use decrease. And then in terms of hospice and palliative, primary outcomes, again, would be medication related. So we're looking at decrease and declines in pain medication, as well as narcotics and antipsychotics, restlessness reduction, pain-related distress reduction, as well as vital sign stabilization. So those are kind of the primary outcomes we're looking for. In terms of, like it boils down to kind of like the key questions that we have for each of our kind of deployment use cases. So in long-term care, really what we're looking for is bottom line, can it reduce isolation and loneliness and improve engagement as part of daily care, including dementia care? In hospice, we're looking at, can it support successfully comfort, calm, and non-pharmacological distress and restlessness reduction? In home care, we're looking at if it can reduce loneliness while fitting naturally into the home and family routines. And lastly, in inpatient care, can it support emotional regulation, behavior de-escalation, and stay usable for staff in a very busy, structured clinical? So those are kind of our anchoring questions. And now I'm just going to speak to our current validation landscape and what we have going on here at AgeTech. So current validation, we have an Envisage funded clinical evaluation study partnering with Broadmead Care as well as the McMaster Institute of Research and Aging. We have deployed our cohort 1, and we're about to start cohort 2 this month in 2 long-term cares in Victoria and 1 long-term care in Ontario. We are planning our hospice trial with Prince George Hospice as well as CTAN, our inpatient mental health trials with St. Joseph Hamilton, funded by CABI. We are deploying to our clients as well in Ontario, $15 across 2 facilities. We're recruiting, as I mentioned, for our home care beta trial, recruiting 20 participants in BC to trial our devices for 3 to 6 months and give us kind of like consistent feedback so we can improve the workflow and tweak or tailor the technology if needed for the home. And then lastly, we have, we're working with Langley Lodge as part of a QI project to look at loneliness and social isolation, as well as onboarding and implementation and what we can improve there. So far, in terms of Broadmead Care studies, I can speak to the fact that our realistic baby dolls are definitely more popular than the plush versions. We have residents really melt at just the sight of them, and we realize that beyond just one-to-one care, it actually enables them to better socialize because they are bringing it to other residents and showing them how to work with the doll and engaging with Sunny Doll together. So it's definitely a very heartwarming kind of sight to see. Very interesting observation. We also had a resident that became agitated, and we timed kind of de-escalation. It was under 2 minutes, and so distraction away from their main concerns were immediate, and then the successful de-escalation of like sundowning or like escalating behavior happened under 2 minutes. So hopefully with this trial, we're able to collect more data, and this will translate to peer-reviewed publications as well. In terms of what success looks like, I think I already alluded to this in terms of our outcomes, but really for long-term care, less isolation, less loneliness, and more socially engaged and stimulated older adults. In hospice, calmer and reduced pain signals, less distress. In home care, less isolation and loneliness, and families are feeling supported. In inpatient care, reduced agitation and behavioral de-escalation, and having it be very practical in terms of usage for staff. Just gonna lastly touch on lessons learned. Happy to speak in more detail about this later. But for us, sustained adoption really does not come from just the device alone. It really depends on the environment around the device. And so we've learned that organizational readiness is really critical. And so the best fits are usually with sites that are already aligned around innovation, person-centered care, and non-pharmacological support. So it's to kind of have partners that understand what's coming and understand that this is close to commercialization, but it is not yet fully like a stable system, and we're still working on iterations. And then number 2 would be implementation capacity is also really key. A team might be really excited about the technology, but the adoption really depends on whether the staff have time, the role clarity, and the workflow space to actually use it and sustain use.
So thank you, Vanessa. We really thank you for your presentation. This is exciting, but we really need to start the Q&A, the general Q&A.
Happy to speak on this later. But yeah, I'm just gonna quickly wrap up. But in terms of what comes next for us, we are refining our product and our software, optimizing our implementation model, as well as expanding more deployments across various use cases and sites. And so, yeah, that's us. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We can move on to the general Q&A, where we will have all the presenters. Thank you to each of us for the presentation you gave. It's very interesting and insightful. Please write the questions you have, and we will read them when they entered. So I have one. It is for Vanessa from what I can understand. The question is, have you considered pets as well as toys?
Yeah, so we actually have a wide variety of them. So we have our realistic dolls that are meant more for dementia care. And then we have the plush version. So like rabbits, dogs, bears, cats, as other options. So we basically created the device where it's like a plug and play model. And so we can basically inject our devices in our system into any form factor, really. Yeah, so we're flexible on that.
So another one is, why did you settle on a doll and teddy bear?
I think we have various options, but I think the initial reason why we settled on realistic doll is because our system is designed based on the principles of doll therapy used in dementia care and long-term care. So we saw that it was really helpful in dementia care settings for behavior stabilization and de-escalation. But one of the gaps was that they kept wanting to engage with the dolls, but the dolls don't speak back. So that was just kind of like our spark or our inspiration to create Sunday Doll. And then later down the line, we rolled out the provider application as well. But we've designed this entire process with kind of like geriatric nurses, staff, geriatricians, dementia specialists as well. So we got a lot of input during our development process. So that's kind of why it was the doll, you're asking why. And then teddy bear is, we tried to create models or roll out models where it's already seen in the long-term care space. So it's not too like jarring for them. And that has, I can speak to the fact that that has worked well for us because we have some definitely more odd looking ones. We have like a blue elephant, and that's not that popular. And they like the polar bears and they like the teddy bears and the rabbits that they kind of see in long-term care. So that's kind of why. Yeah.
Okay. So a question for Vanessa. How did you deal with privacy and consent concerns, especially with people living with dementia?
Yeah, so in terms of our Visage and CABI funded trials, we have the research teams that have consent forms drafted, and we ask both the resident, but then we also ask the family. So we have to have family sign off on it before they are able to participate in our trial. And so that's kind of how we've dealt with the consents. So we have to ask both parties. And then privacy, we basically have many meetings before we even decide on deployment sites and rollouts on kind of hashing out all of the privacy concerns and all of the IT related issues and questions. And so we just tell them like, there is the most common question is there a camera? And we say there's no camera. And then they're reassured a little and like, does it record? Like, no, it does not record. We don't have transcripts. We don't keep transcripts. Everything is thematic data only. And that's all we can see. And so that kind of reassures them. And then we also have internal documents that we share that kind of go over our entire architecture and design for the IT teams as well to comply with their regulations. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we have a final question for everyone. What are your hopes for the future to help us stay connected in your own fields and in general? We can start with Kristen Wood, and I see her first in my screen.
Well, I think our workshops really, or I should say Brittany's workshops really started off connection making. And as Brittany was pointing out, things are already happening. So they're happening on the front with Brittany and her team, but also the Amputee Coalition of Canada came away with more partnerships and have an active strategic plan that in many parts is very aligned with what we heard at those workshops. So the work continues, and there's lots of it.
Thank you, Kristen. Lyne, what is your opinion on that?
Oh my goodness, that's a big question for me. I think, honestly, I just hope that we continue to have conversations, that we continue to share experiences, that we continue to work together. Obviously, as you said, Adina, AgeWell is great for that. Yeah, that's my hope for connection.
Thank you, Lyne. Kira?
Yeah, I totally agree with Lyne, and I think that we should continue to collaborate and co-develop interventions together with participants. And yeah, this is my hope for the future.
Thank you. Brittany, do you have something to add? For sure.
Yeah, I just feel as the kind of academic connection in our group that I can just bring the skills that we have and the resources that we have in academia to the needs of the community and just kind of empower them to do the things that they already want to do.
That's great. And Vanessa, you have something else to add to this question?
I think I echo the sentiments. I think collaboration between the disciplines is really key. Like as innovators and developers, we really need to engage with our real users and also management and also staff. And so to really create like a sticky product that is that will survive in the ecosystem and in organizations and in the home. So I think my hope is for more like interdisciplinary collaborations. Yeah, it's definitely made an impact for us.
Thank you very much for your presentation and for your thoughts. This was very nice. I was very pleased to chair this session. And do not forget to join for the final EPIC conference session tomorrow on financial wellness and employment. And with all this, thank you everybody for your presence here with us today. And do not forget the final EPIC conference sessions tomorrow. Bye, everybody.